I'm saying hi to Maximilian or Max, as you like, and I'm happy that you have some time for this little chat here. I'm interested in what you guys are doing, and I'm interested in you as a person. So maybe you can give us a little intro to you, and then we diving into your story, and I'm happy to unfold it.
Yeah, thank you. I guess Max is completely fine. That's how everybody's calling me. Else it's just a little bit too long. Um, well, yeah, I guess we came together with our current launch. We are going up to with Warmwind. This is my third company, and so far the one I'm most excited about. And yeah, happy to be here. Thank you.
What you guys are doing, we will discover on later on. But you already gave some topics to dive into. Always trying to discover what kind of upbringing is it that enables a person to become a founder, and especially someone like you who is now already in his third company. So I'm trying to understand what kind of people are inspired you. Is that parents or friends or teachers? Always interested in what kind of education or no education, because I had some people on the podcast that decided against it and are self-taught. So yeah, please go as far back as you like, and we're trying to go step by step.
Well, I think it's hard to do a self-diagnostic session here on why I'm how I am or why I do what I do, because like there are many days I ask that myself. I think it I think there are days where I definitely have like the thought of this seems way harder than I would have to than that it would have to be. And obviously it would be extremely chill to just have a 9 to 5 job and you don't have to care about the outcome. If it doesn't work out, you could go to the next company. But I don't know, I never really felt drawn towards safety and like regular daily routines and doing the same thing again and again. And so people nowadays try to, like my family tries to explain it because my my grandparent had a company, and he was like had a company with 200 employees and so on. And people try to say, okay, it's like in the genes. Well, maybe, I don't know that. But and this could be because like there are funny stories my parents tell me nowadays that like when I was 5 or 6, I had these little toy cars, and I did like exhibitions of the toy cars, and then it cost like €2 to come into the expedition and look at them. So I guess there was I don't know, maybe an intrinsic gene which wanted to figure out how to sell stuff to people. I don't know, but I think because like this is my third company, and the first company I had was mainly because I wanted to figure out how to do the whole selling stuff to people thing. So I picked something that I wanted to sell, and when I had this first sale online, it felt very amazing, like the whole like experience that somebody who I don't know just ordered something from me and like gives free willingly money to me so I can ship it over to him or her. And this felt amazing. And now I think if you're in for the money, and that's I think that's what everybody likes, or that's something everybody is drawn to immediately at the beginning. So everybody thinks, okay, only if I do my own thing, I can become a millionaire or whatever. So I think a lot of people start trying to fund a company or found a company because they try to get rich. But if I look into my circle of friends, I think that's mostly just for the first company, and then people realize that's not why they're in it for, or that's not why they're in for it, because there are way simpler ways to make a lot of money than having a company. Having a company is maybe even the hardest thing you can do to get rich.
On this podcast, and today I just published episode 80. There's a lot of people with deep expertise in robotics AI, and I would argue that that the majority of them are not in it and not starting for the money. They're starting because they see there's no one else able to do it, and they have this urge or they have this long passion and expertise on a specific topic, and then they see there's a demand, they see there's no one who is really being able to serve that demand. So I would argue that even though money is nice, the majority of them is not in it, even from the very beginning, not for the money. I would argue they are in it because they think somebody needs to do it, right? And it's obviously no one else is doing it. So, or no one else has the capabilities, or we think that we have the capabilities. I really do like the fact that you shared the entrepreneurial spirit that you had very early on with the exhibition of the cars. I think this shows some sort of just guts to do it, and a very natural way of handling this kind of situation, because a lot of people feel uncomfortable selling, right? And you think it seems like this comes natural to you, and as a founder, I think this is something that gives you an advantage.
Yeah, I think that's a good. I mean, if you talk to a lot of people who found because they feel like it has to be done, I think that's the best way to start. I think everything else is just a sidetrack. So when I look into my past, so my first company, we basically produced in our office in Germany, in Jena, we produce bracelets for our DIY bracelets, and for every bracelet we sold, we planted a tree. So that's nice, but it's nothing that like had to be done. It's a nice thing. There's not a lot of innovation. It's more like the business model. But even back then, we in our best year, we had like revenue of roughly 1 million. But if you would have looked in my apartment, which was like roughly 60 square meters with my nowadays wife, and I never really like put money out of it. I always like reinvested, and the real fun in there, and I mostly did it for the fun and not for the money. But I think that if I look back to this era, I think that it feels like that was like a side mission, maybe to get into the right track. Because I mean, fundamentally, to do what you have to do in order to succeed with a product which is literally bringing a lot of value to people and not like just nice to have. I feel like you need a lot more and a lot more deep intrinsic motivation for doing what you do than just for the fun of it or something like that. So I feel, if you know a lot of people who start because they feel like it has to be done, that's probably the correct way to start.
You said that and I do this also my own intrinsic motive, and I said this yesterday to a friend on the podcast, and I'm repeating myself here for people who are listening regularly. I have a little one, and she's just 2, and I would like her to be not risk adverse, but not necessarily risk seeking, but not afraid of risk, right? Taking risk and seeing this as a natural part of it. Failure is part of the progress. And I'm trying to decipher, maybe this is because we talked earlier before this podcast, why I do this podcast. And maybe this is one of the reasons to understand what kind of environment do I need to build for her to become a person that has the guts to do things that you guys do. And you said that your grandparents had a company that is also something, not necessarily the story about them, but maybe you can tell me a bit more, because this is a very important time, I guess. Being surrounded by this kind of conversations, being surrounded by this kind of behavior in situations where hiring people, firing people, building products, selling products, marketing, expansion, like all the things that are happening that you are using now today. Has that been something that you've been surrounded by and you were able to see a few glimpses and learn a few lessons and make your own thoughts about those things? Was that something that was present, or was that more unconsciously for you?
Yeah. So the thing is, because the end of the game, how the company turned out, is not in a positive way. So I don't know how happy my family is about spilling all the beans, because how this turned out is
not the turnout. I was more talking about.
Yeah, I know, but I'm going there. So how this turned out was in a way that because it was like a sub company of a bigger company which went bankrupt. So everything below that also went bankrupt after it. And for how this turned out in the family, it was everything then good. So there was a lot of dispute between all sorts of different family members, because like at this point, a lot of people in the family are like part of the company, or like have to give up on some freedoms and whatever, and have to pull with the whole family. But all this happened at an age where it was like 4 or 5.
Okay.
So this is when it went bankrupt. So basically the whole conscious life, where the last thing I can remember that was like I was driving around some small wagons inside the company, but I have only a few very small I only remember like a few small things from that era. But what the most time in which I grew up, having a company was actually a bad thing in my family, because my father and my mother nearly divorced because of that, and there was a lot of problems. And from the view of my father, it was like the whole thing was a mistake, and from his and I think he's also quite risk adverse at this point, and he's always very worried about what I do. So I guess he would be sleeping much better if he would know that I would have a 9-to-5 job. So I think it's not that. Or at least in my case, it's particularly quite the opposite. So my family is nowadays, or my whole childhood, like more against funding a company or founding a company. Nevertheless, I have to say my parents never got into my way. So my father was always like kind of, okay, whatever, do what makes you happy. My mother always supported me a little bit more in this regard, but they always told me, or gave me the feeling, and I think that is the most important thing. Whatever happens, that's like the bedrock you have to have. Whatever happens, you can always just come back and move in with us and live here, whatever. So, and there's nothing that could happen that like where we would be mad on you or whatever. So I guess that's the most important thing for all my decisions. Because if you have like this bedrock of feeling that whatever happens, you won't die, essentially, it makes a lot of risk taking much easier, and it allows, for at least for me, it allows me to see. I know, I mean, you said failure is a part of it, but I don't know how I feel about the word failure, because I feel like there's not really, everything has something good with it. So even if today the company goes bankrupt, whatever, all the time and all the whatever I invest to it, like there's so many learnings. Number one, like that's one benefit, it's obvious, but all the people I got to know, I mean, there's a whole like branch of knowledge I built up how to raise money all the people I got to know from which I can raise money in the future. So everything of that is already a net benefit. So if the company would be just vanishing today, obviously I would be mad. It would not be the outcome I would want. But there would be nothing that would make me regretting doing all of this in the first place.
I'm very thankful that you said all of that, and I think this was one of the main reasons why I got back to this episode, because I thought there was more behind this, and I think you said something very valuable, like not necessarily encouraging, but being a place where you can come back to. And offering that place and offering it verbally, like not only, okay, he should know this place always exists, right? If it doesn't work out, obviously he can come back. But no, saying like, give it a shot, try it, and if it doesn't work out, then come back and you can sleep in your bed in your room, right? So I think this safe place, building this safe place mentally and physically, I think this is definitely something I'm trying to pick up and understanding, okay, if there will be a time where my kids, and now I'm doing a hobby analysis of maybe you being a rebel and say, okay, because they don't want me to do it, I do it. Not necessarily like this, but only because it didn't work out doesn't mean I can't be done. I can have a shot, right? Doesn't mean like only because this one didn't work out, I don't have the opportunity to do it myself, right? So I think that makes all the difference, having parents that are being there for you. So thank you very much for sharing this personal anecdote. So being 4 and driving around in a car in a former company, and then being part of the aftermath, what was education? Is that something that was important for family, for you, something that that was interesting for you, or was it just byproduct?
I think I never realized first of all, obviously, if you're like 5 years old, people don't talk with you about all these problems and whatever. So the real and then it was always like this part I never gave attention to, because I don't know, it's just if you're 10 years old and this is the 10 years, that's basically life. There's nothing special about it. And only if you grow a little bit older, like 16, 18, whatever, you understand like, okay, yeah, maybe if I look back to it, that's like something I could think through with my mind and realize, okay, something happened there. But I don't know, because it was never, nowadays it's basically just something you don't talk about. so it was never something which influenced me in a way that I think it would. I mean, I don't know, but I think it would. It's not something that would have changed my path really, because I really just have not really any. I can't remember really anything from that period. The only thing I feel nowadays is the aftermath. But yeah.
And so coming back to the educational part, very often I see people, like I said, a lot of people are on robotics, AI in on the podcast, and I was interested in math and physics very early on. I was a computer science, I started computer science because I was programming very early on. I got the computer from my father, or I got one myself. And how is that for you, the educational part?
Okay, yeah, that's a mental journey. So
That's what we're here for.
So school. When I now they talk to people, and I ask them, or we talk about school, I feel like nobody really felt as bad about school than me. Because if I think back, I really hated it. Like it's and not the people. I had a lot of good friends there, and like everything was good from that side. But like the whole thing or the act of going to school and have to listen to the people and do what they want, like do their homework and whatever, and then you have to go home and spend time there. I literally hated it. It was, and when I would have, when you would ask me if I want to start my life again, like experience everything from beginning, I would say no, just because of school. You could give me no amount of money or anything, so that I would free willingly go back to school and have to do all of that again. It's looking back, it really feels like torture, but obviously for a lot of people not. So I don't know. I think, yeah, I don't know what's there, but that changed a little bit with university. Because university you have a lot more freedom and you can do basically what you want, and if you don't go to the course or whatever or the tutor, nobody cares. So if you basically stay at home and study at home and then you go to the exam and you pass, it's fine. So and that was much more my way of doing things, like just give me the information, I will teach it myself, and then do your stupid exam, basically. Yeah.
I mean, but how did you decide to what to study?
Yeah. So my first I guess then we have to go back to school. I always tried to do something my first company I founded when I got 18. I always tried to found a company before that, but that would have to be with the consent of your parent and so on. I think you can do it from 16 or even 14. I don't know if your parents basically are the main holder of the company and whatever, something like that. And I always tried to do something earlier, but they I don't know what was the reason why they didn't. But at the end, I had a lot of like small ventures, so to say. So I tried to produce music and videos and put it onto YouTube and make money with that. And it was never that I wanted really like to make the money, but I always felt like I wanted to become independent from my parents. So like having my own money, do with what I want, because I never really like got how do you call it in English, like weekly money from your parents. Like some kids get like once a week or once a month some money they can use, and that was never the case for me. So when I wanted to have something, I would have to ask, and I hated to ask. I just wanted some money to use for myself. And so that sparked the first that sparked, basically this was the initial reason why I did all what I did as a child. Like I started with watching like, okay, how do stocks and shares work, and how does that like thing does work. Like I started, I don't know, with 12 or 13 years old, looking at these videos. Thought like, okay, yeah, that's good, but I would have to have money in order to use stocks to make more money. So I don't have money, so I have to produce something, or I have to like create something, and people are willingly giving me money for it. So what I did then, and I think you can still find that nowadays, and that's something that's typically not public, and only I think my best friends, maybe 2 or 3 people, and my wife knows about that. So I guess from now on a lot more people know about that. I started a YouTube channel which was focused on making on making sounds and music that helps parents for their baby to sleep faster, basically. So super specific. And why did I do this? Because my parents told me when I was a baby, they always like I screamed a lot, and they got me to sleep when just by putting on like the hairdryer or the washing machine, like this white noise thing. And I thought, okay, I feel like a lot more people could benefit if this would work for other babies also. So I like recorded all these random sounds in the household. Like I put on like the hairdryer and recorded the sounds, or put music on and whatever, and uploaded that. And I forgot about it. half a year or full year later, I came back and it had like 100,000 views. I thought, okay, maybe there's something there. And I then put more and more onto it. And at this time I was like 14, 15 years old, so still very young. And after a few videos up, I saw, okay, people literally benefit from it and watch these videos. This account is still existing. If you Google for baby hairdryer sound or whatever, you will definitely find it because it's like in the top 10 results. And it still pulls, I don't know, 200K views a day or something like that. And what this allowed me as I was like 16 years old then, and I made like, I don't know, a few dollars a month, like $100, $200, $500, whatever you can make from AdSense.
Well, what's the name of the channel?
Trash bag sounds, something like that.
I got it.
Yeah.
Fuck my life. So this. Okay, you can't see it. So this is 120 minutes, baby hairdryer sound to fall asleep, trash bag, 77 million views. This is in 7 years ago. This is insane. Like 2 hours. This is insane. That is too funny.
I continued
268K subscribers.
Yeah. And and on some weekends when I had time, I like upload another video. And but at the time when I was 14, 15, 16, I don't know, and I had a lot of time, I did this basically as a full-time job. So I came home from school, did no homework because I could do it before class on the next day. And I basically just produced videos like that, uploaded them, tested out, and like did like data analysis. Okay, what works good, what not, like what is the best thumbnail and so on. And this gave me the first capital to do something on my own. So like,
how much money did you make from that, if you don't mind my asking?
I don't really know, but I remember I remember that I bought like a video projector from that money, and I thought like, oh, okay, that's half of what I make a month. So, and this was like 300 euros, so I think 500-600 euros a month, something like that. Yeah, and this gave me the first money to when I got 18 to create or to found my first company, which was the bracelet thing. And at this point, I still was in school. So I was 18, still was in school for one more year. And this started out maybe in November, and I just put up some random bracelets and said, okay, I will plant a tree in the forest of my grandparents whenever there's a bracelet sold. And because at this time I thought it would make a huge difference to plant trees. It turns out it does not for climate change. But I did that, and it turns out it was very successful over Christmas. So I had like 20K revenue worth of sales within a month. And obviously this was completely unexpected. And together I did some Facebook marketing to get the people into the website. I guess that would have to be mentioned. And I basically got all my nearly half my school class, and then we're like 15 people in my childhood room. And we screamed order numbers all over the room, like 507, 2 black bracelets, 4 Martino, whatever, to Germany. And I got it, and everybody packs it. And like, with 15 people in my childhood room, we basically pack I don't know, 500 orders or whatever. And while they were not there, I have to obviously produce all the bracelets. So this was a huge grind. And this continued. Because actually, yeah, I remember we had at my education part. This continued until 2022, something like that. And I sold the company because I didn't see a lot of innovation potential there. It's what boring me basically. Yeah, and while this whole thing was going on, I had to pick my courses in at university. So I had to figure out what I would want to do there. So I knew from school that I loved physics, but I also knew I hated the math classes. That's kind of controversial, and I think there are not a lot of people who hate math but love physics, because physics uses a lot of math. And so I thought, okay, let's do something that doesn't need a lot of math. So I started with some economy class, which also involves some computer science, because back then I always was more of a computer science guy. I did a lot of coding myself back then, and also the whole website and shop system for the online shop. And then I started studying there, and I felt extremely bored, because I was in it all day long. Like I lived basically what they were teaching, and I felt like that's exactly not what reality is like. Like, what is the function of your revenue, and what is like your I don't know. They had all these words for things that like I have no function of revenue against marketing expenditures, because this depends on if Facebook will update its algorithm next week or not, or something like that, because it's and I felt like, okay, that's not the thing I want to do. I still did it to up until the end, but I felt very bored. So what I started doing is I found out that I can add a second how do you call it, like direction of studies for free without giving the university any more money. And I choose physics there, mostly because I felt I cannot find friends in the economic classes. So I still went there to do my exams and so on, but I mostly went to the physics classes to find friends. But I never but the bad thing is I felt like they were not as deeply interested in physics as I thought they would, because if I would want to create conversations on physical topics, like, I don't know, at this time, theory of relativity, whatever, things somebody with 20 years old want to talk about. They weren't really interested. They just like wanted to meet for sport activity or whatever, and I wasn't interested in sports.
In physics.
I don't know.
Interesting.
So they wanted to meet up for like basketball or whatever, and I didn't want to do sports, so that wasn't the match. But I stayed there for 3 semesters and studied physics as a side track, and then after that didn't work out, and I didn't really find friends there. I thought, okay, let's maybe I'm already in the correct courses, because it was like economy mixed with computer science. But maybe the problem is that the computer science courses are just too easy, because it was like Visual Basic, all things, because Visual Basic is, number one, something you don't really need, and number two, that's what I first encountered when I was 14. That's what the very first thing I wrote as a kid. So it felt like incredibly useless for me to go to this course. So I thought, okay, maybe while I'm in bachelor, I can still take the master courses for computer science. And I did that, and these were the courses I had a lot of fun in. There were a lot of cool people, and this is what really like fulfilled me. We had a lot of like projects. We could do basically what we want, like computer vision. Pick a project and do whatever you want to get to the goal, and then you just present it to us. And that's what I loved, and where I put a lot of time in. But as it turns out, the university didn't wanted me to use these credits of these modules for my total bachelor's. So that's basically where everything throws up, and I'm theoretically still enrolled into the university. I just don't visit it for the last 5 years or something, like 4 years.
So you still pay?
Yeah, for reasons of economic reasons, because like the train is free and so on.
I mean, you pay it, so it's not necessarily free. But the I like the idea of pursuing the things that you like versus the thing that makes logically more sense in terms of you should have finished the degree, right? But is that interesting me, or is physics class from master courses more interesting me, right? So I do follow them. So this is something that doesn't really fit into the society narrative, but it does fit into your story, right? So it does fit into I do the things that I'm more interested in, and where there's incentive of me doing them versus this is somebody else is teaching or telling me how to do things and what to do. Does that bring us to what you guys doing today? The urge and the necessity of you doing courses in computer science that are more interesting for you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess. Um, I think the negative way to say it is like shiny object syndrome. So whenever there's something you find incredibly cool, you just go off and try to do it. And I'm a severe victim of shiny object syndrome. So
Okay.
so and yeah. Um, so this is my third company. We talked about the first one. The second one was like a mixture of both. We started out by giving more people in businesses the opportunity to plant trees when doing things, and but what it was at the end was basically just a software company which built stuff for different other companies because we had to make money from something, and it turned out people don't really wanted to plant trees. They don't wanted to have any expenditures to do something for environment. So they only and they would have paid us if we gave them some certificate for CO2 whatever. But I this was something I always didn't wanted to do, because if you plant a tree, there is no CO2 like nowadays. It's something for the future, whatever. So that's basically greenwashing, and we didn't want to do that. So to keep afloat, we basically became a company which which created software for other companies, all sorts of different software, and we made a lot of good money with it, but never so much that we like turned a huge profit. It was keeping us afloat. So that was that, and from this, and then there came the time where ChatGPT basically came apparent, and everybody talked about AI. And for me, it was extremely strange because I was into AI since ever I started Python, basically, because this was always something I admired, like something that was extremely cool to me. When I was 19 or 20, while I did my university thing, I trained a neural net and tried to steer my car with it, like autonomous car, basically tried to do it myself. In retrospect, it was maybe nowadays I could do it on a technical perspective, but then it was like barely working. So I had like a webcam built into my car. I had like this servo motor which tried to steer my steering wheel, but it was a very old car, so it wasn't really working. And it was working on like some dirt streets, but in the city, it was like distracted from all the huge buildings and tried to steer me at 90 degrees off the road. So this didn't work, but I always was like, I was doing stuff with neural nets, and that was something I definitely wanted to do. But then everybody was talking about ChatGPT and felt like, okay, I mean, I already like read the papers on GPT-1, GPT-2, and now it's GPT-3, and like from 0 to 100, everybody wants it. Like, that's strange. And all the companies, I mean, now I understand why, because it's the first time GPT-3 came, like it became something that was actually useful, and before it was not useful. But all these, because we were a software company, all these people said, opposite to me on the table and told me, all these business owners, we need AI in the company. We need AI. And it was like, okay, but like for what? Like, what do you want to do with the AI? And it was like all these people just knew they wanted to use AI, but it didn't know like, what is it? What can I use it for? It was like more in a pressure they felt they would have to use it, else they will go out of market. And I thought, okay, that's kind of stupid. Like everybody wants to do it, but doesn't know like how to do it or what to do with it. And we started to do some projects with APIs and custom trained models to do some kind of automation. But it was
Sorry, how big was the company? Or is the company?
We were like 5 people, so okay. not huge. We started to do some automation stuff. But everything was extremely custom built, and I thought like there would have to be something where people can basically should be able to do it their own, and or should do the audio automation themselves. But and then we started off, and this was the first idea, which brings us to the company we have today. And but the prototype was still built in the old company. So we started off by creating something like an environment where one AI agent can basically do whatever he wants. So that's the core idea. Like you give an environment, and one AI agent can do whatever he wants inside there freely to fulfill the task you gave him, her, whatever, the AI agent. So that was the goal, and we started by implementing all sorts of custom apps with API endpoints, and we had like Google, all sort of Google apps and Microsoft apps and Instagram and so on. And what you could do was like tell it to create an Instagram post once a day by looking at your website and getting the latest information and creating every day one Instagram post from that, stuff like that. And what the model did was like doing API calls to the browser, and the browser told it, okay, that's currently the content of the web page. And then it used an API call to Midjourney to create an image. Then it used the image and uploaded it to an API call of Instagram and like posted the thing. And this was then like executed once a day, something like that. And all of that was built visually. So it felt like an operating system, because you had these windows, like you could literally look at what it's doing, the model. So it like opened up Instagram, and then you saw like Instagram is opening up and doing things inside it. And people loved it, and I had a lot more resonance than I ever had for any product before. And as I told you, I'm a severe victim of shiny object syndrome. So I tried a lot of things until this point, and 90% of things flopped. A few things worked, but never before I had such a positive feedback and so many people who wanted to use something until then, until this product.
So the execution of the AI. So really to see, I mean, if you use ChatGPT, there's the option to look behind the thinking, right? So the person wants to talk about blah, 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 blah. So let's look up this and that. And then obviously it goes into this direction. So let's look up some papers, or let's do some research on. So the looking behind the black box of AI, is that what you mean in terms of people who are so fascinated by just, I mean, doing the manual work that you would do normally on your own, now seeing some magic hand doing all those things, right? And people were able to see the execution of the algorithms.
Yeah, exactly. And this first sparked the idea, okay, we have to, because the whole idea of doing this is in itself incredibly stupid, because you are there with maybe, I don't know, 20,000 euros to spare to create a new company, whatever. But you have to go against like Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, the huge companies which could do what you're currently doing way better, at least that's what you're thinking. But I thought, okay, I basically have to try it, because I don't feel like the big companies are going into this direction. Everybody's only doing this text models and API calls, and I already knew because these people were so excited. I thought, well, it's something that's because AI at this time still, and I think nowadays even still, creates a lot of fear in people, and people feel it's very uncomfortable for people to talk and think about AI in the future, what it will do and whatnot. And I thought, well, this mostly comes from like, it's not transparent. You don't really know what it does. It like says, okay, I create a document, but where does the document come from? Like, what is it actually like doing right now? And then at the end, it like gives you a download link, and you think like, okay, how do we get to this download link? How do I know that it didn't like something wrong along the way or whatever? And I thought, okay, so why don't we give it a user interface? And it's basically, it looks like Windows or Mac, and it has its own OS, and it's working inside there. And if you want, you can just look at it and see what it's doing. And this brought us to the big step which basically defines the company nowadays, is that we do everything visually, because we now have a user interface and a operating system where the AI can live in. We don't do any API calls nowadays anymore. So no API calls, no API keys. You don't have to be you don't have to be a technical person at all, because the AI in the current version is using the software just as a human would. It is looking at it visually and using it with mouse and keyboard. So that's it. And this makes it so incredibly close to humans. So on the one hand, it's emotionally like you can understand what it sees because you see the same thing. You can understand why it clicks or what it does with its keyboard and mouse, because you can literally watch its mouse cursor move around and type in things. But at the same time, you don't have to put any more effort in automating your stuff, because you already have the software you daily use. You just put it into there and it uses the same way as you would use it.
Where is the company standing at the moment? Where are you guys? I saw the launch video. That was pretty impressive from a visual point of view. So it fits into your narrative. Where are you guys now? How big is the company? What is your plans? Maybe you can talk about this.
Yeah. We are currently 10 people, roughly. Like, we're growing a little bit slower than we hoped to, because it's very hard to find extremely skilled people. It's hard in Germany. It's hard in Europe. We would have to go to San Francisco, but we don't want to go there. So we have to get the people from there back to Germany and back to Europe. So that's one of the hardest things we currently do. And even though we are a software company, I feel like I'm mostly a hiring company myself currently. So hiring the correct people, the right people to do what we need to do is one of the hardest things right now. But we are at a good point where we feel very comfortable with the current version of the software. It does what it should do. It has some limitations. It's still a little bit slow, and it could not play Minecraft on its own. Like, it has no continuous understanding of 3D space or something like that. But it can use software as a human would do. But it turns out there's a huge difference between the software works and it works good enough for 1 million users to use it every day. And there's an extremely long tail of small bugs and small problems which has to be removed in order to ensure the reliability we would want before you deploy to 1 million people plus. And this is currently our biggest challenge. But it's not really a challenge. It just has to be done, basically. We know what to do. We have to execute on that. And we have to execute well. So that's not a problem. We just have to do it. And we are on a good track. And I think we would definitely release a version to a lot of people before the end of the year. So that's where we are at. But we already see with the current architecture of AI models, we don't get to where we want it eventually, because the world currently works on language-based models. So everything is language. And then you have these models which also support vision. So like all the GPT models nowadays, you can upload images and it understands what it sees. But in order to work, but in order to use vision for the text models, they first train the text models only on text. And then after that, they take the text, the image, and try to make, or how do you say it in a not so technical way? So you would say they project it into the text space. So this means they basically transform the image into something that feels like text for the model. So the model can work with it. But what this means is that it fundamentally is the model is fundamentally trained for text, and it's not working with images as good as a human could do. So all the architectures which are currently out there, open source or not, are not really usable as we would want it for our software. So what we've done is we retrained a model ourselves to be more coherent with our tasks, but it's still using the old architecture which is currently on the market. We just retrained it for our purposes. But we know what we need is a vision first model. So not text first, but we have to include vision already on the very first step of pre-training the model. Like from base up, it has to really deeply understand what it's seeing and it has to live in the 2D space and understand the 2D space on your screen from base up, and not like patched afterwards into the model like it's currently done. So this means we will have to put a lot of money into training a new kind of model for a very specific use case, because there are not a lot of companies which use vision models like we do it. This means we need a lot of money to do that. But the good thing is it's something that's definitely possible. So it's not experimental. We know that it works. There just has to be somebody who does it basically. Currently there's no need, but we have a lot of need, so we have to do it ourselves now. And this leads us to basically the next capital round we will start in the next 2 weeks.
Nice. Thanks for the insights. I mean, this episode will be published in a couple of weeks, so it might come together with the funding round that you guys trying to put together. It seems like so this is I mean, you're still very young, right? So but still since a very early age on, very entrepreneurial mindset, and not afraid of taking risk, not afraid of doing things you haven't done or no one else has done. And yeah, this is one of the main reasons why I have this podcast. And I'm curious to see what comes out of it, especially something that you said. Europe is in a place at the moment. There's a lot of talent, but a lot of talent left or is about to leave. There's a lot of things happening on a societal level, and it's not that easy to compete with places like San Francisco, right? And it will be interesting to see how you guys will manage
I think there's a lot of rage in European people because they feel like, why can't we be as good as the people in the US? And we are, and people know that we are. And I think we should use this rage and get the people together to do something great here. And I think we can do it.
This is a great initiative that is happening at the moment. And as people living in Europe, and you said you're gonna continue to want to stay in Europe. So I hope we will be able to succeed, and I think you guys are doing your part. And I'm very happy that I was able to convince you to be on the podcast, because you mentioned earlier before we had the podcast that you're a technical person and you like to be in the lab, you like to do those things. But this is part of getting the story out there, and I was very happy that you said yes.
Thank you for having me.
Looking forward to new announcement, and keep me updated, because I would like to match it to so what's coming out there. And again, say thank you to your co-founder, because he was the one, I think, you pushed you a bit to be on the podcast. And looking forward to see and hear more from you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.